You know what a $70,000 Tesla sounds like when 23 tons of logging trucks settle on top of it? It's not just metal breaking, it's karma singing. Fiberglass screaming, aluminum folding, windows popping one by one like firecrackers. And there I stood at 6 a.m., coffee going cold in my hands, watching the HOA president's Tesla get crushed into a 4-inch thick lesson in consequences. 6 months. That's how long she'd been blocking the only gate to my property, cutting off my deliveries, my income, my family's food. Your problem, not mine, she told me last week, smiling from inside that same Tesla. Cops arrived, news vans followed, half the neighborhood poured out in slippers. Not one person felt sorry for her. And before I show you how I flattened her car 100% legally and exposed her corruption, tell me, where's your breaking point when petty tyrants try to destroy everything you've built? This whole mess started 18 months ago when I thought I'd finally found peace. My name's Garrett Hollis, 47, third-generation logger. I run a small operation outside Crestfall, Oregon. Population 4,200 if you count the dogs. 3 trucks. 7 good men who've been with me for years. 4 years back, breast cancer took my wife, Mary Ann. Watching her fight for 2 years, then losing anyway, that changes you. Our daughter, Piper, was 12. She needed stability, needed a home that didn't smell like hospitals or remind her of the worst days. So I bought 2.3 acres on the edge of Maplewood Estates, half old-growth forest, half cleared land with our house and my workshop. Every morning at 4:45, I'd walk into that shop and smell cedar shavings mixed with diesel, the smell of honest work. That meant home. That meant hearing Piper's soccer cleats hit the porch at 4, her humming while making mac and cheese. Here's what matters. My property has a private easement road cutting through the HOA's common area to reach the county highway, established 1987, recorded with the county, 30 years older than this subdivision, legal and permanent. Until Vivian Kress decided it wasn't. The first time her white Tesla blocked my gate, I figured it was a mistake. Tuesday morning, 5:10 a.m., loading chainsaws, needed to hit a job 40 miles out by 6:30, walked outside with coffee steaming. There it sat. Model X parked diagonal across my only exit. Vanity plate, LUV2 cell, Vivian Kress, HOA president, 3 consecutive terms, real estate agent. The kind who wore white Lululemon to check her mailbox and treated dirt like a war crime, platinum bob that cost more than my truck payment. Moved from California 6 years back on a mission to elevate property values, which meant strangling everyone else with bylaws and committees. I walked 200 yards to her door and knocked. She answered in a silk robe, designer coffee mug in hand, face arranged in polite confusion. "Morning, your Tesla's blocking my easement." "Oh." Pause. Eyebrows up. "That's a private road? The HOA map shows common area for residents." "Been there since 1987. It's on my deed." That smile, never reaching her eyes. "We'll discuss this at the next board meeting. I'm sure it's just paperwork." She moved it. I lost 45 minutes and half a day's pay. It happened again Thursday, then Monday, always between 5 and 6 a.m., right when I needed to leave. Each time a different excuse. Charging cable reached farther than expected, didn't see the gate in fog, thought it was a turnaround spot. I showed her the survey. My deed. County records. She'd nod, apologize with that pageant smile, and block it again next week. By the 6th time, I knew this wasn't confusion, this was deliberate. Then the violation notices appeared on my door. Unsightly commercial vehicles visible from street, $150 fine. My trucks sat 60 feet back on my property, where they'd been for 18 months without complaint. Unapproved structure, $200 fine. My workshop, the one that had stood there for 40 years before her subdivision existed. That evening I went to the HOA meeting. Maplewood Community Center, 19 residents on folding chairs, burnt coffee smell and stale air. Vivian ran it like a courtroom, laminated Robert's Rules cards, wooden gavel positioned like a judge's hammer. I stood during open comment and presented my easement documents, survey maps, property deed, official records. She looked at the room and smiled. "Mr. Hollis, we're all maintaining certain standards here. Your industrial operation might have been appropriate before, but Maplewood is evolving." One board member, Todd, retired accountant with tired eyes, shifted uncomfortably, said nothing. I moved to investigate the validity of Mr. Hollis's claimed easement, Vivian announced. Past 4:1. Walking out, I heard her stage whisper to another member. These logging types never understand property values. My knuckles went white, gripping the steering wheel going home. Piper was up doing homework when I walked in, looked at my face. Dad, are we moving? I sat down heavy across from her. Not a chance, kiddo. This is our home. But lying awake that night, I ran numbers I didn't want to face. Payroll in 2 weeks. 3 contracts I couldn't reach if she kept blocking that gate. Bills stacking on the counter. I understood then. Vivian wasn't just petty. She was hunting me off my own land. Week 3, Vivian stopped pretending this was about rules. I pulled up at 5:20 a.m. to find a heavy-duty chain and padlock wrapped around my easement gate. Industrial grade, the kind you use to secure bulldozers. No warning, no notice, no key. I sat there with my engine idling, diesel fumes mixing with the cold morning fog, and called Vivian, straight to voicemail. Called again. Voicemail. Texted her. Nothing. I had a timber crew 40 miles north depending on me, and my only legal route was now locked behind steel I didn't have the key to. The alternative meant 11 miles through residential streets where my logging truck wasn't permitted. Weight limits, narrow turns, roads built for soccer moms, not timber haulers. But Cascade Woods Limited was paying by the day, and my crew needed their paychecks. So I took the illegal route, crept through those subdivisions at 15 miles per hour, every turn making my 40-ton rig groan, praying I wouldn't crack someone's driveway or meet a deputy who'd write me up for road violations. My coffee went cold in the cup holder. My knuckles stayed white on the wheel. Arrived at the job site an hour and 20 minutes late. The site supervisor didn't even pretend to smile. Garrett, this is the 3rd delay this month. We like you, but we can't keep adjusting schedules. Bronson Timbers got the next contract. Just like that, $18,000 gone. I drove home shaking with rage, grabbed my bolt cutters from the truck bed, and cut Vivian's padlock clean through. That sharp crack when the steel shackle finally gives, the smell of hot metal and ozone in cold air, it felt like justice. For exactly 14 hours. Because next morning my lock lay in the gravel, cut in half. Her chain was back. Her padlock gleamed in the dawn light, and taped to my windshield. Destruction of HOA property, $500 fine. I stood there at 5:15 a.m. and laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind that comes when you realize someone's gaslighting you with your own property, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it in the moment. That afternoon, I called Devin Riggs, my attorney. He'd handled Marianne's estate, new Oregon property law, cold. Devin, can she legally lock my easement? Garrett, no. Your easement's been recorded since 1987. Oregon recognizes what's called prescriptive easements. If you've used a road openly for 20-plus years, the law grants permanent access even without explicit deed language. I handled a case up in Bend where a logger had Forest Service access for 15 years. County tried to block it. Judge ruled the access was untouchable. Your 30 years of documented use? She doesn't have a leg to stand on. Made sense. I remembered reading something similar when I bought the property. Use it long enough, prove it, the law backs you. Then why is she doing this? Because taking her to court costs 10 grand minimum and takes a year to get a hearing. She's banking on you going bankrupt before you ever see a judge. He wasn't wrong. I had $3,000 in savings. Piper's college fund was sacred. The business account covered payroll and fuel, nothing extra. Devin sent a cease and desist anyway. $400 for certified mail and legal letterhead. Vivian ignored it like junk mail. Then week 4, she went after my crew. My guys started getting official-looking HOA notices at their home addresses. Vivian had pulled property records, found where they lived, mailed each one a letter claiming my trucks were illegally loitering on HOA streets when they carpooled from my place. Miguel came to me looking sick. 30 years old, 2 kids, mortgage payment every month. Boss, this letter says I could be personally fined. I can't afford legal problems. It's intimidation, Miguel, pure bluff. But I saw it in his eyes. He had a family. He couldn't risk this. Darnell got the same letter. So did Travis. Week 5 brought the real gut punch. I was at a job site 30 miles out when Deputy Steve Munoz called. We'd gone to high school together, decent guy. Garrett, I'm at your easement. Got a call about an abandoned vehicle blocking emergency access. Steve, that's my truck. On my property. I know. He sounded exhausted. Vivian Kress filed a formal complaint. I've got your deed right here. You're completely legal. I'm documenting this as a legally parked vehicle and noting that Ms. Kress appears to have filed a false report. I'd read somewhere that filing bogus police reports was technically a misdemeanor, rarely prosecuted, but it built a paper trail. Steve was quietly creating evidence for me. Thanks for having my back. Watch yourself with her, he said before hanging up. She's not playing. That night I gathered my crew in the shop. The smell of chainsaw oil and sawdust hung heavy. Look, we've lost 2 contracts because of her blocking that gate. $43,000 just vanished. If anyone needs to start looking for steadier work, I get it. 0 hard feelings. Nobody quit. But I saw the calculation happening behind their eyes. Mortgages, kids, bills. I called the credit union that evening about a $15,000 personal loan at 9% just to cover the next 2 months of payroll. Later, Piper found me in the workshop sharpening chainsaw blades. The rhythmic scrape of file on steel usually calmed me. Not tonight. Dad? She stood backlit in the doorway. Jesse's mom said I should find another carpool, said you're causing problems. I set the file down carefully. What'd you tell her? That you're the least troublesome person I know. Then I left before I said something worse. I pulled her into a hug. 16 now, nearly as tall as me, trying so hard to be strong while her dad's world was falling apart. We're gonna be okay, kiddo. But lying in bed that night, listening to the old house settle and creak in the wind, I wasn't sure I believed it anymore. Vivian wasn't just blocking my gate, she was systematically strangling my business, 1 week at a time, and betting I'd break before she did. Week 5 brought a new weapon, legitimacy wrapped in lies. I got a certified letter from the HOA, official letterhead, legal language, the works. They'd hired a surveying company called Western Boundary Associates to resolve the easement dispute. $3,200, paid from HOA funds. The surveyor showed up on a Tuesday. Older guy, clipboard, laser equipment, the whole professional package. Spent 3 hours measuring, marking, taking photos. Didn't say much to me except just doing my job. 2 weeks later, the report landed on my doorstep. According to Western Boundary Associates, the original 1987 easement was marked 15 feet west of where my current gate sits. They claimed my gate was actually on HOA property, and the real easement cut through an unusable ravine section choked with blackberry bushes and a seasonal creek. In other words, my 30 years of road use meant nothing because I'd supposedly been using the wrong strip of land the entire time. The HOA called an emergency meeting to present the findings. I showed up with Devin. Vivian stood at the head table, looking like she'd already won. As you can see from the professional survey, Mr. Hollis has been encroaching on HOA common area for years. We're simply asking him to use his actual easement, the one he's legally entitled to. The fact that the actual easement was an impassable gully didn't seem to bother her. Devin stood up, folder in hand. I'd like to point out several problems with this survey. First, the surveyor used the wrong benchmark reference point. They referenced the 1982 property line, but the county changed all benchmarks after the 1996 flood when the creek shifted. Every survey since then uses the new markers. This report is based on outdated, incorrect data. He pulled out a county map, spread it on the table. Second, Western Boundary Associates shares an office building with Ms. Kress's real estate brokerage. Same landlord, same parking lot. That's not illegal, but it raises questions about impartiality. Vivian's smile tightened. Are you suggesting professional surveyors falsified their findings? I'm suggesting they made convenient errors, Devin said. And I'm requesting the HOA hire an independent surveyor with no business ties to anyone on this board. I watched the other board members shift uncomfortably. Todd, the retired accountant, looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. The board voted anyway. 4-1. Accept the original survey. Deny Devin's request for independent verification. Vivian smiled at me across the room. I'm sure once Mr. Hollis adjusts to using his legal easement, we can all move forward. The legal easement that didn't exist as a functional road. I paid for my own survey. $2,800 I didn't have, but I needed the truth documented. I hired Colleen, a surveyor I'd worked with on timber contracts. 60-something, no nonsense, wouldn't fudge numbers for anyone. She spent 2 days measuring, cross-referencing county records, checking benchmark positions. Her report was damning. The gate is located precisely where the 1987 easement was platted. Western Boundary Associates' survey contains multiple critical errors, including wrong benchmark references and miscalculated property lines. In 30 years of surveying, I have never seen this many mistakes in one report unless they were intentional. That last line, unless they were intentional, that was Colleen's professional way of calling them liars. But Colleen's report didn't matter because the HOA had already accepted the other one, and fighting it in court meant more money, more time, more bleeding. Then, Vivian launched the smear campaign. Week 7, flyers started appearing in mailboxes throughout Maplewood. Glossy, professional-looking, headed "Protect Our Community." The flyer listed my supposed violations. Illegal logging operation threatens neighborhood safety, dangerous machinery, unqualified drivers, environmental damage to protected wetlands. Every single claim was false. My operation was licensed, insured, OSHA compliant. My drivers were certified. There were no wetlands anywhere near my property. At the bottom in small print, paid for by Concerned Residents Committee. No such committee existed. It was just Vivian with a printer. She also posted in the neighborhood Facebook group photos of my trucks with captions like, "Industrial blight lowering your property values," and "How long until someone gets hurt?" Most residents ignored it, but 5 or 6 busybodies rallied around her, started a petition to the county demanding my easement access be revoked. They collected 43 signatures, mostly people who'd never even driven past my property. Then came the email to Cascade Woods. My former client forwarded it to me. Subject line, "Safety concerns, Hollis logging." The email claimed I had lapsed insurance and unsafe work practices. Anonymous sender, but the writing style was pure Vivian, corporate speak and fake concern. The client called me. "Garrett, we know this is garbage. Your insurance is current, your safety record's spotless. But this kind of drama makes us nervous. We're going to hold off on new contracts for a while, let things settle." Another $25,000 in potential work vanished. I sat in my truck in an empty parking lot and did the math. Between lost contracts, legal fees, surveys, and the personal loan, I was down over $70,000 in 2 months. That night, Piper's soccer team had an away game. The teammate whose mom lived in Maplewood, the one who'd told Piper to find another carpool, her family was supposed to help with transportation. They didn't show, didn't call, just didn't come. Piper sat alone on the team bus, texting me, "It's fine, Dad. Coach gave me a ride." But it wasn't fine. My 16-year-old daughter was being punished because her father refused to be bullied off his own land. I texted back, "Love you, kiddo. Proud of you." Then I sat in my driveway and made a decision. I needed leverage. Fast. Real leverage. The kind that would make Vivian stop. Or better yet, make her fall. I remembered something Devin had said weeks ago. HOAs are corporations. Corporations have filing requirements. Public records. Financial disclosures. Board meeting minutes. If Vivian was this desperate to force me out, maybe she had something to hide. Time to start digging. Week 7, Vivian found a new angle. If she couldn't block the gate with her Tesla, she'd block it with bureaucracy. The HOA scheduled emergency road maintenance on my easement. 5 consecutive days, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. Exactly my work hours. A contractor showed up Monday morning with cones, barriers, and official-looking "road closed, no through traffic" signs. The company name on the trucks, Premier Paving. I walked out to talk to the foreman. "How long's this going to take?" He shrugged, sipped his coffee. "Lady said nobody really uses this road, so we got it full time. Should be done Friday, maybe." "I use this road every day. It's my easement." He looked uncomfortable. "I just go where they tell me, man." I watched them for an hour. They filled 2 potholes that barely existed, measured things with a tape measure, stood around talking. Mostly, they just blocked my exit. By Friday, the foreman told me they'd need another week. Found some drainage issues. I drove to the county public works office and asked to see the permit for road closure on my easement. The clerk searched her system, frowned. No permit filed for that address. In Oregon, you can't close a road, even a private one with easements, without notifying the easement holder and getting county approval. I'd learned that from a timber operator who'd dealt with similar issues years back. The rules exist specifically to prevent this kind of blockade. So they're doing unpermitted work? Looks like it, she said, and made a note. County Inspector Huang showed up the next morning, mid-40s, clipboard, zero patience for nonsense. He walked the site, checked for permits, took photos, then he red-tagged the entire project. No permit, no easement holder notification, work stops immediately. He handed the foreman a cease work order and turned to me. They'll be fined $1,200. If they continue without permits, it's $1,200 per day. The contractor packed up within an hour. I thought that was the end of it. 2 days later, I got a notice for an emergency HOA meeting. I wasn't invited, violation of their own bylaws, which require easement holders be notified of meetings affecting their access. But Todd slipped me a copy of the agenda. The board had passed a resolution. Annual easement maintenance fee, $6,000, payable by easement holder Garrett Hollis to cover road wear and tear caused by commercial vehicles. $6,000. For a road I maintained myself, a road they'd just tried to illegally close. Devin got a copy through a public records request. HOAs have to file resolutions with the county, and called me immediately. Garrett, this is extortion. Easement holders can't be charged maintenance fees by HOAs. It's explicitly illegal under Oregon property law. We'll destroy this in court. How long? 6 months to get a hearing. Maybe a year for a verdict. I don't have a year, Devin. I know. I took out another loan. $15,000 more at 9% interest, this time secured against my equipment. If I defaulted, they'd take my trucks. Miguel and Darnell both asked if they should start looking for backup work. I told them no, but I could see they didn't believe me anymore. Then the county building inspector showed up unannounced. His name was Kowalski, looked bored before he even got out of his truck. Got a complaint about unpermitted structures. Need to do an inspection. Of what? He consulted his clipboard. Workshop, primarily. Someone, anonymous of course, had filed a complaint claiming my workshop lacked commercial permits. Kowalski measured, took photos, checked county records. Workshop's grandfathered, predates zoning laws, you're fine there. He walked around the property. But this tool shed, when'd you build it? 6 months ago, it's just storage. He measured it. 120 square feet. County code says anything over 100 needs a permit, he wrote on his clipboard. That's a $285 fine plus $150 for the permit itself. For a tool shed, he shrugged. I don't make the rules. Also, someone's really got it out for you. This is the third anonymous complaint I've gotten about your property this month. Other two were total garbage. One claimed you were running an auto shop. Another said you had unpermitted apartments. Both false. Anonymous complaints, all traced back to one person. Week 9 brought the final escalation before everything changed. I received a letter from a Portland law firm, big firm, the kind with marble lobbies and $400 per hour associates. They represented the HOA. The letter demanded 1. Payment of the $6,000 maintenance fee, 2. Payment of $1,850 in accumulated violation fines, 3. Immediate cease and desist on harassing HOA contractors, meaning my calling the county about illegal paving work. They threatened to sue me for tortious interference with HOA business operations if I didn't comply within 10 days. Tortious interference. I had to look it up. Basically, they were claiming I was sabotaging the HOA by enforcing my legal rights. Devin read the letter and laughed. Not a happy laugh. This is intimidation, pure and simple. They're throwing legal terms around, hoping you'll panic. Is it working? Should it be? I looked at the stack of bills on my kitchen table. 2 loans, lost contracts, legal fees, violation notices. My savings account showed $347. Yeah, I said, it's working. That night, Piper found me staring at the letters spread across the table. She didn't say anything. Just put her hand on my shoulder. I covered her hand with mine. I'm not giving up. I know, Dad. But sitting there in the quiet house, I realized something. Vivian was trying to bury me in paper, death by 1,000 bureaucratic cuts, which meant she was terrified of something. People don't fight this hard unless they're protecting something. Time to find out what. Late that night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about what Devin had said weeks ago. HOAs are corporations. Corporations have filing requirements. I opened my laptop and searched Oregon HOA financial disclosure requirements. Turned out Oregon law requires HOAs to provide financial statements to any homeowner upon written request. I wasn't a homeowner, but easement holders with recorded rights have legal standing to inspect documents related to common area maintenance, which included the road Vivian kept claiming to maintain. The next morning, I had Devin draft a formal request, last 3 years of financial statements, board meeting minutes, vendor contracts. Vivian stalled for 2 weeks. The legal limit was 10 business days, then finally emailed heavily redacted PDFs. Most numbers were blacked out, most vendor names were hidden, but she made one mistake. She forgot to redact one document, a contractor payment ledger from 2023. The ledger showed Premier Paving, the company that had blocked my easement, received $47,000 for road resurfacing in March 2023. I drove through Maplewood that afternoon studying every inch of road. No fresh asphalt, no resurfacing. The same cracks from 2 years ago were still visible. I had photos from when I'd first moved in. The road looked identical. $47,000 for work that was never done. I dug deeper. Another entry, Green Vista LLC paid $28,000 for common area tree installation. I walked the common areas, counted 4 newly planted trees. Home Depot sells those same trees for $300 each. That's $1,200 in trees billed at $28,000. I looked up Green Vista LLC through the Oregon Secretary of State Business Registry. Registered agent, Vivian Kress's daughter, age 24, lived in California. Shell company. Had to be. I called Devin. We spent 3 days pulling records, cross-referencing payments, tracking down vendors. The picture that emerged was ugly. Over 3 years, the HOA had collected $340,000 in dues and fees from 67 homeowners. Legitimate expenses, insurance, snow removal, utilities, actual maintenance, totaled about $120,000. The other $220,000? Gone. Disappeared into inflated vendor contracts, no-bid deals, and payments to companies owned by Vivian's family and friends. Premier Paving, owned by her brother-in-law. Green Vista, her daughter. A consulting firm that received $35,000 over 2 years. Registered to an address that turned out to be a P.O. box Vivian rented. Devin found the smoking gun buried in an old email attachment. A message from Vivian to Premier Paving's owner. Bill the road work at $47K, I'll approve it, you send $20K back to me in cash. Direct evidence of a kickback scheme. But there was something else, something that made my stomach drop. The HOA reserve fund, money set aside for emergencies and major repairs, was supposed to be around $80,000 for a community of 67 homes. The actual balance, $4,200. If anyone sued the HOA and won a judgment, there wasn't enough money to pay it. That would trigger a special assessment. Every homeowner would have to pay $2,000 to $5,000 to cover the judgment. Or the HOA would declare bankruptcy, which would put a litigation cloud on every title in the subdivision, tanking property values overnight. I sat back in my chair, understanding finally clicking into place. Vivian's aggression toward me wasn't just about my land. She was panicking. If an independent audit happened, triggered by my easement dispute or anything else, her fraud would be exposed. She'd stolen over $200,000 from her own neighbors. She needed me gone before anyone looked at the books. Devin leaned back. You've got her. This is criminal embezzlement, breach of fiduciary duty, fraud. We file a complaint with the Oregon DOJ, she's done. But if we expose her, the HOA goes bankrupt. 66 innocent homeowners get crushed. That's not your problem, Garrett. It is if I have to live next to them. I thought about it through the night. I had the evidence to destroy Vivian, but using it would hurt a lot of people who'd done nothing wrong except trust the wrong person. Then I realized I didn't have to make it public immediately. I could offer her a deal first. Back off, resign quietly, pay restitution over time, and I'd stay quiet. If she refused, then I'd burn it all down. I texted Devin. Can we meet tomorrow? I've got a plan. He replied, this ought to be interesting. Outside my window, the first light of dawn was breaking over the trees. For the first time in months, I felt like I was holding the cards instead of getting buried by them. The next morning, I laid out the evidence across Devin's conference table. Bank statements, vendor contracts, email screenshots, payment ledgers, 3 years of fraud documented in black and white. Devin whistled low. This is worse than I thought. She's stolen over $200,000. Can we use it without destroying the whole HOA? He considered. Maybe, if we're strategic. Over the next week, we built the team. First was Colleen, the surveyor who documented Western Boundary Associates' fraudulent survey. She agreed to testify if needed. "I don't like seeing my profession used to cheat people," she said. Second were Miguel and Darnell from my crew. They'd been quietly documenting Vivian's harassment, screenshots of Facebook posts, photos of violation notices, timestamps of every gate blocking. "We got your back, boss," Miguel said. The third ally surprised me, Todd Brenner, the uncomfortable HOA board member. I approached him at a coffee shop in the next town over, neutral ground, away from Vivian's eyes. I showed him the financial documents. His face went pale. "Oh God. You knew?" "No, I asked Vivian about the reserve fund last year. She said the auditor approved everything, that it was all in the file." He looked sick. "I never actually saw the auditor's report. She said it was filed away." "Todd, your signature is on the tax filings as board secretary." "I know." He put his head in his hands. I trusted her. She handled everything. I signed what she put in front of me." I'd heard about this. Board members who rubber stamp decisions without reading them. In Oregon, board members have something called a duty of care. They're personally liable if they approve fraudulent filings, even if they didn't know. Ignorance isn't a defense when you're in a position of responsibility. "I could go to jail for this," Todd whispered. "Not if you help us fix it." He looked up. "What do you need?" "Access to all HOA records. Everything Vivian's been hiding." As a sitting board member, Todd had unrestricted access to HOA files. Over the next 3 days, he covertly copied everything: full financial statements, unredacted contracts, board meeting minutes including discussions about driving out Garrett, and most damning, email correspondence between Vivian and her shell company contacts. One email made my blood run cold. "Once Hollis is gone, we can develop his 2.3 acres as Phase 2 of Maplewood. Estimated sale price, $800K. My commission, $48K. She'd been planning to force me out and sell my land before I'd even moved in. Devin laid out our strategy over coffee in my workshop, speaking in plain terms I could actually understand. "Here's how we do this. Phase 1. We file a complaint with the Oregon Department of Justice, Consumer Protection Division. HOAs are nonprofit corporations under state law, so embezzlement triggers an automatic investigation. Timeline, 30 to 90 days for initial review." He sipped his coffee. Phase 2. We simultaneously file a derivative lawsuit on behalf of the HOA. That's when any member sues to protect the organization from corrupt leadership. We demand a forensic audit, removal of Vivian, and full restitution. Timeline, 4 to 6 months to hearing. That's too long. Which is why we have Phase 3, emergency injunction. We ask a judge to freeze HOA funds immediately and bar Vivian from board activities pending investigation. If our evidence is strong, and it is, we can get a hearing in 10 days. Devin leaned forward. Phase 4 is the key. We leak the evidence to local media, Crestfall Gazette, Portland news stations. Public pressure speeds up everything else. I understood the play. We weren't just fighting Vivian. We were making it impossible for her to hide. "But here's the thing," I said. "I don't want to just expose her. I want her to publicly implode." "What do you mean?" "The HOA has its annual meeting in 45 days. Required by bylaws, all homeowners invited. Minutes are public record. I'm going to attend. As an easement holder, I can speak during open comment. I'll present the evidence there, in front of everyone, and demand a vote of no confidence." Devin grinned. "You want to make her defend herself in front of the people she's been stealing from?" "Exactly. If she steps down quietly, we file the DOJ complaint the next morning. If she refuses, we file it that night and call the press." Over the next 2 weeks, we prepared. Miguel created a timeline. Every gate blocking, every violation notice, every false police report, dates, photos, witnesses. Darnell compiled my financial damages, $73,000 in lost contracts, $9,000 in legal fees, $30,000 in loans with interest projections. Colleen wrote an affidavit. Western Boundary Associates' survey was materially false, likely intentional. Devin drafted a 28-page complaint for the DOJ, held it ready to file. Todd quietly talked to other homeowners. You should come to the annual meeting. There's something about the finances you need to hear." Word spread. The usual annual meeting attendance was 12 to 15 people. This one was tracking over 40. Vivian sensed something was wrong. She tried to cancel the meeting, claiming scheduling conflict with the community center. Todd, as board secretary, blocked it. Bylaws require annual meeting. Cancellation requires 2/3 board vote. The vote failed. 10 days before the meeting, Piper asked me, "Dad, when this is over, will things go back to normal?" I pulled her close. "Better than normal, kiddo. Sometimes you have to break something to fix it right." She hugged me tight. "Mom would be proud of you." That hit me hard. Marianne had always said, "Stand up for what's right, even when it's hard." I was about to do exactly that. Week 12, 3 in the morning, my workshop alarm screamed. I ran outside barefoot, heart hammering. The workshop door hung open, pried at the frame. Inside, tools scattered across the floor, chainsaw fuel tanks drained onto concrete, gas cans left open. If someone had struck a match, the whole building would have gone up. I called Deputy Munoz. He arrived 20 minutes later, took photos, filed a report. "No cameras?" he asked. "Couldn't afford them." "Garrett, this wasn't robbery, nothing stolen. This is someone trying to scare you." He looked at me seriously. "Or hurt you." 3 days later, I got the call that made my blood run cold. My logging truck, parked at a job site 30 miles away, had been vandalized. All 6 tires slashed, the hydraulic brake line cut. If I'd driven it without noticing, the brakes could have failed on a mountain road. Replacement cost, $3,400 for tires. But the brake line, that was attempted manslaughter. I filed another sheriff's report. Munoz came out personally. "Off the record," he said. "This has Vivian written all over it, but I can't prove anything." I used money I didn't have to install cheap trail cameras around my property, $200 borrowed from a hunting buddy. 5 days before the annual meeting, I got served with court papers. Vivian had filed for a restraining order against me. The allegations made my stomach turn. Threatening behavior, stalking, harassment. She claimed I'd followed her to the grocery store, sent menacing texts, verbally intimidated her at the HOA meeting. All lies. I'd never texted her, never followed her anywhere. The HOA meeting, I'd calmly presented documents. She'd attached affidavits from 3 HOA board members backing her claims. The hearing was set for 2 days later. Small courtroom, Judge Pereira presiding. Woman in her 50s, sharp eyes, no patience for nonsense. Vivian testified first, tears streaming. "Your Honor, I'm terrified of him. He's a large man who works with dangerous equipment. He's obsessed with destroying me because I asked him to follow simple HOA rules." Her evidence, screenshots of Facebook posts criticizing the HOA, written by other people, not me. A photo of my truck on the street, taken from public property, completely legal. My turn. Devin presented our timeline. Every gate-blocking incident, every violation notice, proof I'd never contacted Vivian outside official HOA business. Plus, sheriff's reports showing I was the victim of property crimes, not the perpetrator. Judge Pereira reviewed the documents, looking increasingly skeptical. "Ms. Kress, restraining orders require evidence of imminent threat. I see a civil property dispute, not stalking. Where's the proof of direct threats or unwanted contact?" Vivian's composure cracked. "Your Honor, this man is trying to ruin my reputation. He's telling lies about—" "Ma'am," the judge interrupted, "this hearing is about safety, not reputation. Petition denied." Vivian stood there, mouth open, face red. "We're done here," Judge Pereira said. Walking out of the courthouse, Devin muttered, "She's panicking. People don't file frivolous restraining orders unless they're desperate." He was right. Filing a bogus restraining order to harass someone is called abuse of process. Judges can sanction you for it, make you pay the other person's legal fees, and in extreme cases, it's criminal. More importantly, it created evidence of malice, useful if we ever sued her for defamation or harassment. That night, Piper came home upset. Word had spread through school about the restraining order. "Dad, Jesse's mom told everyone you're dangerous. She said I should stay with relatives until you get help." I pulled her close. People who lie the loudest are usually the most scared. We're going to let the truth speak for itself. 2 nights before the annual meeting, my trail camera caught something. 1:47 a.m. A figure in a dark hoodie approached my property line, stood at the gate for 4 minutes, then left. Couldn't see the face clearly, but the height, build, and gait matched Vivian. She was casing my property, planning something. I backed up the footage to 3 separate drives and sent a copy to Devin. "Don't post this anywhere," he warned, "but keep it. If she claims you're harassing her, this proves she's surveilling you." Sunday morning, day of the annual meeting, I woke at 5 a.m., laid out my clothes like armor, clean Carhartt jacket, steel-toed boots, the flannel Marianne had given me years ago, checked my evidence binder one last time, financial documents, emails, timelines, photos, everything organized, tabbed, ready. Piper came downstairs in jeans and her soccer hoodie. "You don't have to come," I said. "Yeah, I do. You always said if something's important, you show up." We drove to Maplewood Community Center in silence. The parking lot was packed, had to park on the street. Through the windows I could see people filling every chair, standing room only. Vivian stood at the head table chatting with board members, acting like she'd already won. She saw me walk in and her smile faltered for just a second. I sat front row, Piper beside me, Devin on my other side. Todd sat at the board table looking like he might throw up. The air smelled like burnt coffee and nervous sweat. This was it. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd lost, everything Vivian had stolen, it all came down to the next hour. Vivian called the meeting to order with her gavel. "Welcome everyone. Wonderful turnout today." I opened my binder. "Let's do this." 5 days before the meeting, Todd confirmed the agenda item I'd been waiting for. Annual financial report. Vivian was required by bylaws to present income and expenses. "She'll present the fake numbers," I told Devin. "Let her, then we drop the real ones." Maximum impact. She lies in public, we prove it immediately. Devin and I spent those 5 days refining our approach. Every piece of evidence had to be airtight. Bank statements, vendor contracts, emails, payment ledgers. We organized it chronologically, made copies for the first 3 rows of attendees. Miguel and Darnell quietly spread word to neighbors. "Might want to come to the HOA meeting, should be educational." Colleen told friends in Maplewood, "Heard there's some financial stuff you'd want to hear about." By Wednesday, the Facebook event page showed 52 people interested, triple the normal attendance. Vivian tried to change the meeting location at the last minute, claiming plumbing issues at the community center. She suggested moving it to her house where she could control who entered. Todd shut it down immediately. Bylaws require public venue accessible to all members. Meeting stays at the center. As board secretary, he had the authority. Vivian was trapped. 3 days before the meeting, I got a text from an unknown number. "We should talk privately. I have a solution that benefits both of us." VK. I showed Devin. "She wants to make a deal," he said. "Record it. Oregon's one-party consent. You can legally record any conversation you're part of without telling the other person." I'd read about one-party consent laws when researching property rights. Roughly 38 states allow it, Oregon included. Recording admissible in court made sense to protect yourself. We met at a coffee shop the next morning. Neutral territory. I arrived early, set my phone to record in my shirt pocket. Vivian walked in wearing sunglasses despite the overcast sky. Sat down across from me, hands wrapped around an expensive latte. "Garrett, we've gotten off on the wrong foot. I want to make things right." "I'm listening." "The HOA will drop all fines. We'll grant you permanent gate access, no restrictions. Plus, we'll pay you $10,000 for your trouble." "In exchange for?" "You sign an NDA. You agree never to discuss internal HOA matters publicly. What's done is done. We move forward." "Internal HOA matters? Like financial discrepancies?" Her jaw tightened. "They're accounting errors, nothing criminal. Having this come out publicly hurts everyone. Property values crash, homeowners suffer. You lose too. Your land's worth less if the neighborhood's in chaos. So you're admitting there are discrepancies." "I'm trying to protect the community." She slid an envelope across the table. 10,000. Cash. Walk away, sign the NDA, and this all disappears. I looked at the envelope. Part of me, the exhausted, broke part, wanted to take it. 10,000 covered one loan, got me breathing room. But the NDA would gag me forever. Vivian would keep stealing. Other people would get hurt. "I appreciate the offer," I said carefully, "but I think the HOA members deserve to know where their money went." Her expression went cold. "You're making a mistake. You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Actually, I have a pretty good idea." She stood abruptly, grabbed the envelope. "See you Sunday." After she left, I sat there with my cooling coffee and checked the recording. Crystal clear. Her voice, her offer, her implicit admission of discrepancies. Devin listened to it twice. This is gold. She just offered you hush money on tape. That night, my easement gate was blocked again, but not by her Tesla. By a massive pile of landscaping debris. Tree branches, dirt, gravel would take hours to clear by hand. She was trying to stop me from physically getting to the meeting. I called Todd. She dumped half a yard of debris on my gate. I'll pick you up, he said immediately. You're not missing this. Sunday morning arrived cold and gray. I dressed slowly, deliberately. The flannel Marianne gave me, my good boots, the Carhartt jacket I'd worn to her funeral. Armor for the war I'd been fighting for 3 months. Checked my evidence binder, financial documents, emails, timeline, photos. Everything organized by date, color-coded tabs, copies ready. Piper came downstairs. Dad, can I come? It might get ugly. You always said if something matters, you show up. This matters. We drove to Todd's house. He was waiting on his porch, looking pale but determined. Ready? I asked. No, he admitted, but let's do it anyway. We arrived at Maplewood Community Center 40 minutes early. The parking lot was already half full. Through the windows, 60-plus people cramming into a space meant for 30, folding chairs being added, people standing against walls. At the head table, Vivian, arranging papers, checking her gavel, smoothing her blazer. She looked calm, composed, in control. She hadn't seen me yet. Todd, Piper, and I walked in. Devin followed 30 seconds later. Strategic separation, so it didn't look like we'd coordinated. I sat front row, center, set my binder on my lap. Vivian saw me. Her hand froze on the gavel. For just a second, her mask slipped. I saw fear. Then she smiled and called the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. What a wonderful turnout. I opened my binder to the first tab. Let the reckoning begin. The community center smelled like burnt coffee and anxiety. 62 people crammed into folding chairs, standing room only, along the back wall. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting everyone in harsh white light. Vivian presided from the head table, gavel positioned like a scepter. Todd sat beside her, looking like he might be sick. The other 3 board members whispered nervously. In the back row, reporter Ainsley Cho from the Crestfall Gazette, notepad ready. Devin had tipped her off. And in the far corner, in civilian clothes, Deputy Munoz, arms crossed, watching. Vivian powered through routine business, approving last year's minutes, introducing board members. Then, now for our annual financial report. She clicked her laptop. PowerPoint appeared on the screen behind her. The HOA collected $112,000 in dues this year. Operating expenses were $108,000. Our reserve fund is healthy at $35,000. Overall, we're in excellent financial shape. Numbers that didn't match reality by over $200,000. She clicked through slides fast, hoping no one would ask questions. Any questions? She asked, finger hovering over the next slide button. I stood. I have several. Mr. Hollis, this isn't the appropriate forum. Bylaws say any member can ask questions during open comment. I'm an easement holder with legal standing. Devin nodded from his seat. Legal backup. Vivian forced a smile. Of course. What's your question? You said the reserve fund is $35,000. County records show it was $4,200 last month. Which number is accurate? Silence. You could hear the HVAC system humming. There was a recent deposit, Vivian said carefully. From where? No answer. Second question. You listed $47,000 paid to Premier Paving for road resurfacing in 2023. Which road? The main boulevard. I pulled out photos. I drive that road daily. These photos show the same cracks from 2022. It's never been resurfaced. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. You're mistaken about the location. Premier Paving is owned by your brother-in-law, correct? Her face went rigid. I don't see how that's relevant. I handed Devin a stack of documents. He distributed copies to the front rows, financial ledgers, contracts, emails. This is the actual contractor payment record. Premier Paving, $47,000 for work never performed. Green Vista, LLC, owned by your daughter, $28,000 for 4 trees that cost $200 total. A consulting firm at your P.O. box. $35,000 over 2 years for unspecified services. A homeowner named Sandra stood up. Wait, my roof leaked last year. I filed for reserve fund repairs. You said there was no money. Other voices. The playground equipment, my fence. Vivian grabbed her gavel. These are lies. He's fabricated documents to... Todd stood, hands shaking. No, Vivian. He's right. Every head turned. I'm the secretary. I signed tax forms I never actually reviewed. Vivian showed me fake reports, but I've seen the real books now. He looked at the crowd. We're missing over $180,000. I've reported it to the State Department of Justice. There's a criminal investigation opening. The room exploded, voices overlapping, people standing, shock and anger mixing in the air. Vivian's face went white, then red. Todd, you're fired from this board! You can't fire an elected board member at an annual meeting, Todd said quietly. Requires 2/3 homeowner vote. Devin stood. I'd like to present additional evidence. He pulled up an audio file on his laptop connected to the room's speakers. Vivian's voice filled the space. They're just accounting errors. Nothing criminal. 10,000, cash, walk away. The recording of her bribery attempt, offering me hush money in a coffee shop 3 days ago. Someone gasped. Another person swore. Vivian's mask shattered completely. This is a witch hunt. Garrett Hollis has been harassing me for months. He's filed false complaints, sabotaged community projects. Judge Pereira denied your restraining order last week, I said calmly. She found no evidence of harassment. I pulled out the court order, passed copies around. And you want to talk about sabotage? I continued. Someone pried open my workshop at 3 a.m., drained fuel everywhere. Someone slashed my truck tires and cut the brake lines. I've filed multiple police reports. I nodded toward Munoz in the back. He inclined his head slightly. Confirmation. Final piece of evidence, I said. This is an email from Vivian to her brother-in-law at Premier Paving. Bill the paving work at $47K. I'll approve it. You send $20K back in cash. I held up the printed email for everyone to see. Direct evidence of a kickback scheme. Sandra stood again. I move for immediate vote of no confidence in President Kress and removal from the board. 4 people seconded simultaneously. Vivian's voice went shrill. This is procedurally improper. You can't just... Emergency votes for board misconduct are explicitly allowed under Oregon HOA law, Devin said. Let's vote. Show of hands. 58 for removal. 3 against. Vivian's closest allies. 1 abstention. Vivian stood, gripping the table. You people have no idea what you've just done. This man has destroyed me over a stupid driveway. No, I said quietly. You destroyed yourself. I just turned on the lights. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the exit. Deputy Munoz stepped into her path. Ma'am, the Oregon DOJ would like to speak with you. Not an arrest, but you'll want to call an attorney. She stared at him, at me, at the room full of her former neighbors. Then she ran. Literally ran out the door, heels clicking on pavement, car door slamming, tires squealing as she sped away. The room sat in stunned silence. Then Ainsley Cho, the reporter, raised her hand. Can I get statements? Piper squeezed my hand. You did it, Dad. I pulled her close. We did it, kiddo. Todd collapsed into his chair, head in his hands, looking relieved and terrified at once. Sandra approached me. Mr. Hollis, I owe you an apology. I believed her lies about you. We all did, another homeowner said. Thank you for not giving up. Devin clapped my shoulder. Hell of a mic drop. I looked around the room, at the shocked faces, the scattered evidence, the empty chair where Vivian had sat. It was over. 2 weeks after the meeting, the forensic audit confirmed everything. $187,000 embezzled over 4 years through shell companies, inflated contracts, and kickbacks. Vivian had also paid herself $35,000 annually in consulting fees, illegal for volunteer HOA positions. The Oregon Department of Justice moved fast. Criminal charges, theft in the first degree, fraudulent schemes, falsifying business records, all felonies. Vivian pleaded guilty to avoid trial. 18 months in prison, $187,000 restitution, 5 years probation. Her real estate license was revoked. Her house went into foreclosure within 3 months. Her brother-in-law at Premier Paving was charged separately, settled for $47,000 repayment plus community service. The HOA sued Western Boundary Associates for the fraudulent survey. They settled for $50,000 rather than go to trial and risk their licenses. All the restitution money went into rebuilding the HOA's reserve fund. An emergency interim board was elected. Todd as president, Sandra as treasurer, 3 new members who actually read financial reports. Their first action, formal apology to me, rescinding all fines and violations. They granted me a permanent, irrevocable easement access, recorded with the county. No future board could ever touch it. They even offered to pave my easement road at HOA expense. I accepted. My business slowly recovered. Cascade Woods Limited. Called in June. We'd like to work with you again. Word had spread that I was reliable, honest, and wouldn't back down from a fight. Turns out those are valuable traits in logging. I paid off both loans by October. The homeowners who'd believed Vivian's lies came by one at a time to apologize. Deirdre, the cat lady who'd filed noise complaints, baked me a pie. I'm sorry I was a busybody. Apology accepted, I told her. Just maybe call before 6 a.m. if you need help. Piper's teammates' parents apologized for shunning her. She was invited back to carpool, elected team captain her senior year. That fall, she wrote her college essay about watching her dad fight corruption. Got accepted to Oregon State's forestry program. I cried reading the acceptance letter. 8 months after the meeting, I proposed something to the new HOA board. Use a portion of the recovered funds for community benefit. We established the Maplewood Trades Scholarship, $5,000 annually to a local high school senior pursuing vocational training. Logging, welding, plumbing, electrical work. The careers that built this country, that people like Vivian had looked down on. The first recipient, Miguel's son, who wanted to be an electrician. At the award ceremony, I stood in front of 30 people and said, Vivian tried to tear this community apart over greed and control. Let's build something that brings us together. People applauded. Some wiped their eyes. One morning, a year after everything started, I needed to transport a massive cedar log, salvaged from a storm-damaged tree, a buyer paying $12,000 for it. The log was 48 feet long, required my biggest truck to move. The route went straight through Maplewood. I submitted the permit request to the new HOA board, approved in 48 hours, no hassle, no games. I drove that 23-ton logging truck through the subdivision at dawn. Kids waved from bus stops, neighbors smiled and raised coffee mugs. I passed Vivian's old house, now home to a young family, a swing set in the yard, toys scattered on the porch, life moving on. At my gate, the chain and padlock were gone. The road was freshly paved, smooth as glass. I pulled through without stopping. As for the title, so I smashed it flat with a logging truck. That was metaphorical. I didn't literally crush her Tesla with a logging rig, but I crushed something more important, her arrogance, her corruption, her belief that she could bully people without consequences. The image of that 23-ton truck became a symbol in the neighborhood. Honest work, defeating entitled fraud. People who build things overcoming people who just take. A year later, Piper and I sat on the porch at sunrise, coffee steaming in the cold air. "Do you ever think about her?" Piper asked. "Sometimes. I hope she learned something." "What did you learn?" I thought about it. That standing up for what's right isn't about being fearless. It's about being too stubborn to quit. Your mom taught me that. Piper smiled, clinked her mug against mine. In the distance, I heard Darnell's chainsaw starting up. Another day, another job. Life back to normal. Better than normal. I looked at my daughter, at the home we'd fought to keep, at the sunrise breaking over the trees we'd protected. "So that's the story," I said, looking at you. HOA Karen tried to starve me out, and I buried her in her own corruption instead. If you've got a HOA horror story, drop it in the comments. Let's compare nightmares. And hey, if you made it this far, hit subscribe. I've got more stories about small-town justice coming. Now go check your HOA bylaws. Seriously, you might be surprised what you find. Thanks for watching.